Now, Fex and Leo were up on stage, and even Quinn was a little excited to see the outcome of the match. When looking at the two, their fighting stances were quite different. Leo had both hands out in front of him, similar to karate or a little like boxing, while Fex had both hands down by his side, but his knees were slightly bent. Slowly, Fex was circling Leo. Fex was the first to strike. He came in throwing his fists in quick succession, two to the head and then another to the body. However, just like before, by using his palms, Leo was able to knock them away. He could block them, Fex thought, but I only pulled back on my speed a little. I was sure from watching the match earlier this would be fast enough. After blocking the attacks, Leo followed up with a kick aimed toward Fex's head. Seeing this, Fex jumped back and tried to grab the leg, but at the last second, it seemed like the angle had changed, causing Fex's grab to miss. Again, it's like he knows what I'm going to do. Fex inwardly was starting to get annoyed. Then, while bringing his leg back, he was able to catch Fex on the head with the heel of his foot. As the fight continued, Fex got more excited, and he started putting more power into his punches. It got to the point where it was power beyond a regular human with no ability. While looking at his energy grew wilder and stronger, it started to remind Leo of the Dalki, and this soured his mood. It brought back specific memories. Usually, the Dalki were reckless when they fought, but the toughest opponent Leo ever had to face was one which knew how to use martial arts skills, and right now, the resemblance was too close. Although he was banned from using his abilities, Leo's was slightly different compared to the others. His ability was always on. Since he was blind, he would constantly activate his ability to see the aura of living things around him. In turn, this also allowed him to see the flow of energy in his opponent's body. When an opponent attacks, their energy flow would move before the body of the person did. This was the same when a person used their abilities as well. Fex threw out stiff and straight fast blows with the fist, but knowing what he was going to do beforehand, Leo was able to block all of the attacks. What? But I was sure I increased the speed quick enough so he wouldn't be able to block it, Fex thought. Then, when Leo prepared for a kick, he could still see where Fex was planning to dodge. He continued to kick in rapid successions, aiming for where Fex would be at each time. Can he read my mind? What's going on? Fex asked himself out of frustration. When the kick stopped for a breath of a second, Fex thought he had finally gotten a break, but before he could do anything, another kick was aimed at him from above. An axe kick, which slammed down on the back of his head as hard as he could. The blow was harder than Fex thought it would be, so he was unable to prepare himself in time. His legs gave in, and his head bounced off of the ground. Before Leo himself had realized it, he had been too consumed by his past memories. It had affected his usual clear mind. However, he knew the student was safe since his aura was still burning brightly. Fex slowly started to get up, pushing his body up with his arms, with his nose slightly bent. Unfortunately, I didn't expect to meet such a skilled student, hence I might have taken the fight a little too seriously, Leo said. Thank you for the battle, teacher. You have taught me how useful your martial arts truly are, Fex said as he bowed down and walked off of the stage. Wait, Leo said. Please tell me, where did you learn to fight like that? As you can see, my ability is only level 1. My family has always been weak, so we decided to train in the form of martial arts to help build a good foundation, Fex answered. As Fex walked back to the crowd, he quickly snapped his nose back into place. He also had bruise marks all over his body, but they would soon heal, so there wasn't much to worry about. With the 2 demonstrations over, it was time for Leo to start the class. The first thing Leo started to demonstrate was the kicks. Leo asked the group to get into pairs and spar with each other. This was Quinn's chance to approach Fex, as he could see he was all on his own, since no one wanted to pair up with him. I guess you already know what I am, Quinn said while looking at Fex, keeping his fist closed, ready for things to turn at any second. Do you know who I am? Fex asked. Thanks to the system's inspect skill, Quinn did know. Fex Sanguinus, correct? Well, it's to be expected. I thought maybe my fame was starting to die around the other families, Fex said, swiping his hair back. I remember you saying that if I needed any help, you would offer your hand. Quinn then took in a deep breath. I need you to help me with the ghoul problem, the one that you captured the other day. Fex then smiled. I thought as much. He had seen Quinn use his shadow ability. It was an ability that other vampires hadn't used in years. Sooner or later, he would be caught by his family and be sent back. If Fex was able to get information from Quinn, how he got this and which family he belonged to, then perhaps the punishment he would receive would be lighter. Of course I can help you, Fex said. But I do have one condition, Fex said, looking over in the direction of the two girls. You see, the one with the golden hair? All I ask is for some alone time with her. There's no way we can trust that guy, Layla shouted. Currently, the whole group had finished their combat classes for the day and were inside Quinn's room. I hate to admit it, Vorden said, but I kind of agree with Layla on this one. What is another vampire doing in this school in the first place? While the others were thinking about what to do, Vorden pulled Quinn off to one side so they could have a private conversation with one another. Hey man, not to add to your worries or anything, Vorden started, but I think we've another problem you should know about. Vorden then went on to explain how a few of Duke's men had come up to Peter in their training session, and how they had asked him to learn the level 4 ability by the end of the week. Then we have no choice, Quinn said. We don't know if Duke is going to keep a closer eye on Peter or what he plans to do. If we don't get Peter off this new diet as soon as possible, then we might have a serious problem on our hands. If it's about trusting the vampire boy or the Duke, I think right now I trust the vampire more. It was a calm day. Quinn stood there opposite Fex, behind the roof door. The door was slightly open as the four of them peeked to have a look at what was going on. Quinn said, We will be waiting just on the other side of that door, and if anything happens to her, we will— I know, Fex said with a yawn. And about the ghoul problem, you promise you'll help us straight after, right? Quinn asked. I already have it sorted, Fex said confidently. Just a fair warning, she knows what you are, so she will be cautious, Quinn replied. Looks like you're breaking rules all over the place, Fex said. I guess it isn't a problem if you plan to turn her eventually. Fex had never seen a vampire break all the rules so casually. There was only one person who was as daring as him, and that was Fex himself. At first, Erin walked slowly, but as she got closer and closer to Fex, she started to walk faster. The closer she got to him, the more annoyed she was at seeing his face. I thought I had already warned you. If you were to mention what you saw in the library, I would teach you a lesson, she shouted. Hearing Erin's words, Fex was a bit confused. He could tell she was angry, but apparently it had something to do with their last meeting. Wait, it couldn't have something to do with that book, could it? As she charged forward, her face had now gone bright red once again, and she pulled out her sword, but suddenly her movement started to slow as she felt something wrapping around her legs and arms. When she looked at Fex, she could see him doing something with his hands. The string-like substance continued to tangle all over her body. Finally, she was completely restricted and could no longer move. Erin was not at the level where she could use the ice abilities with just her mind. She still required small movements with her hands to activate her ability, Fex said. Anyway, hear me out. During my time here, I need a puppet as well as a food source. Now, since you decided to punish me in the library, you have the grace of becoming both of those things. I'm not becoming your puppet, Erin shouted. I'm afraid you don't have much of a choice, Fex replied as he stabbed 12 needles in her back. What did you do to me? Erin asked. I wanted to show you what being my puppet means, Fex replied. Erin went to swing her sword and moved about, yet it seemed like her movements were back to normal. Whatever you did to me, get rid of it now! She lunged forward and swung down her sword. However, as she did, Fex moved a single fingertip, and concurrently, the course of her sword changed, missing the target and merely swinging to the side. My body, did it just move on its own? It was a strange feeling for Erin to suddenly lose control like that. He was now moving his fingers at an incredibly fast speed, and for every different action that he did, it would move Erin's body. While her movements were soft and flexible, as if she was dancing, it was swordsmanship that she had never seen before, one that surpassed her basic skills that were unrefined. What is Erin doing? Layla asked. I thought she would be attacking him, but she looks so beautiful. I don't think it's her look, Vorden said as he pointed at Fex, who was at the back, moving his hands and fingers. You're a lot better than I thought you were going to be, said Fex. It looks like I was right to choose you. When Fex had seen enough, he detached the strings that were on Erin, and she suddenly stopped right there. Now that I have shown you how my swordsmanship works, it's time that I get something in return. Walking towards the lady, step by step, Fex got closer, and right now, there wasn't a thing she could do to stop him. I can't take this anymore. It's not fair on Erin. We forced her into this, and it's clear that she doesn't want to go through with it. What if he's planning to turn her? I'm going, Vorden said as he barged through the roof door. Wait! Quinn shouted. They were so close that Quinn didn't want to ruin the deal they had, but after hearing Vorden's words, Quinn realized how selfish he was being. As Vorden ran out, he gathered a fireball in his hands and was getting ready to throw it toward Fex. However, just as Vorden was about to let the flames go, Erin's body had moved and was now right in front of him. How dirty! Vorden shouted. You're going to use her as a shield? Why don't you fight yourself? Then, a gust of wind seemed to go straight past Vorden as he felt his hair rise. When he looked in front of him, he could see Quinn running past with all his beast gear on. Just like before, Fex moved Erin in front and commanded her to strike her sword, but Quinn showed no signs of slowing down, and it looked like he wasn't even going to bother dodging. Shadow control! Just before the sword reached his side, he lifted the shadow from underneath his foot and blocked the attack, slowing it down. Then, using the flash step, Quinn was able to appear behind Erin and went straight for Fex. Wait! Fex shouted. Stop! This wasn't my intention. You guys win, he said as he held up both hands. Quinn then pulled out a flask from one of his trousers pockets and threw it over to Fex, who was able to catch it. If you need more blood, then you can just come to me, Quinn said. Just leave us be, and I won't get in your way and obstruct your mission, so you shouldn't get in the way of mine. Look, I didn't want to sour the relationship between us two. As I have said, this is all a misunderstanding. Did I ever hurt her? You took control of her body and you forced her to attack me, Vorden said. Just get rid of whatever you put into her body. In that way, you won't be able to control her again. Looks like I've hit a nerve there. I didn't realize she was already taken, Fex said. As fellow vampires, we should be looking out for each other. As a sign of our friendship, I shall do as you ask and remove the needles. Quinn was wondering why Fex's tune changed so quickly. Could he have realized that Quinn was different from the other vampires? But the real reason why Fex had changed his mind about the whole thing was because of Quinn's shadow abilities. The strings were connected to Erin once more, and she felt the tingling sensation at the back of her mind. Fex then yanked out his hand, and at the same time, all 12 needles that were attached to her body were pulled out simultaneously. It's done, Fex said. The others saw the needles had been removed, and Erin could no longer sense a strange feeling inside her body. If you ever wish to become my puppet again, feel free to find me. Come on, let's get out of here, Layla said as she started to walk off with the others towards the exit. Wait, don't you want help with your ghoul situation? Fex asked. We can't trust this matter to him, Vorden said. I'm telling you. But time was running out. Vorden would have to go through the pain of having his limbs removed again. Please, Quinn said, help us. Very well, Fex replied. Follow me. As the three boys followed Fex, they couldn't help but wonder what kind of plan he had. I hope you're hungry, Fex said as he opened the door. As soon as they entered the room, their jaws had nearly dropped to the floor. Currently on the floor were 7 different students who had been tied up. They each had a blindfold around their eyes and a piece of cloth gagging their mouths. This is what someone should have done before they turned him into a ghoul. He would need a different type, right? So here you are. I brought you a different person he can eat for each day of the week, Fex explained. So what, you plan to just kill these students? Vorden asked. Hey, now look who's being the stupid one. No one said anything about killing, Fex replied. The size of meat that a ghoul needs to eat only needs to be about that of a shoe, so there's no need to kill, no need for the school to find out. But won't they say something happened? Peter said, worried as he saw the students wriggling, scared for their lives. Although you guys seem to be friends, it's like you don't know much about vampires, do you? Fex shook his head. If I use my influence powers, then I can make them forget anything ever happened. Well, Quinn, what do you want to do? Peter asked, looking at him. Peter had already made up his mind. He was sick of worrying about this and just wanted to get it over and done with. I can't, Quinn said. I don't even know these people that well. If it makes it easier for you, some of these people aren't good people. Fex then went over to 2 of the male students off to the right side and lifted their heads, revealing a few bruise marks on their faces. What about the rest? Quinn asked. Well, the rest were randomly selected. They just had bad luck, that's all. Look, someone had to draw the short straw, right? While Vorden was looking at the students, he recognized one of the female students. It was the same girl who he had copied the regenerative ability off the other day. Seeing this, though, gave him an idea. Quinn, there is something we can do, Vorden said. Before, he had never considered this an option. Only now that they were able to erase their memories did he think of this. They explained their plan to Fex. After all, They needed him to make sure he erased their memories. "All right then." Fex then pushed the female student towards Quinn, and he managed to grab her just before she tripped and fell over. The boys started to discuss who was going to cut off the limb, since none of them were ready. In the end, it was a unanimous decision that Peter should be the one to do it. Peter grabbed the meat cleaver from the kitchen counter and walked over to the female, all the while Vorden and Quinn held her down on the floor. The two had to hold her down even though her mouth was already gagged. At first, she thought it was a twisted, sick joke being played by her friends. But as soon as she heard them deliberate and talk more about the matter, she slowly realized that it was becoming a reality. As Peter kneeled on his knees, his hands were shaking. "Come on, Peter," Vorden said. "You're happy enough to eat the damn thing, but you can't cut it off." With those words, Peter closed his eyes and swung the meat cleaver down, but at the last second, he tried pulling it back, causing the meat cleaver to only reach halfway through the bone. "Peter, you made it worse," Quinn said as the two swapped positions. Quinn quickly banged a fist on top of the cleaver, pushing it to completely go through. When the leg was detached, he quickly put it inside a black plastic bag. The woman was no longer struggling or screaming. She had just passed out from the fear of everything. "4 more times," Quinn said. "We have to do this 4 more times." While the female's leg was being prepared for Peter to eat, Quinn went over and dipped his finger into one of the ends. "Blood type A positive." Quinn wanted the O blood type. This way, he would be able to raise his charm stat. He realized that with everything happening around them, they were bound to get caught sooner or later. If that was the case, then one of the most useful skills that he had would be the influence skill. He then licked his finger, and once again the message appeared. "A-positive blood has been consumed. An additional stat point in strength has been added. Strength 18. While the others were waiting for the leg to heal and for Peter to start eating, Quinn went over to the other 6 students who were still on the ground. "Inspect." Quinn had used his inspection skill on each of them, and the main thing he was looking for was their blood types. Out of the 6, there were 2 O-negative blood types, 1 AB positive, 1 A positive, and also 2 B positive blood types. After taking a drop from each student, Quinn decided to check his new improved stats. Strength 19, Agility 18, Stamina 17, Charm 12. At the moment, these were Quinn's current base stats without wearing any equipment. With the 2 O blood types, Quinn did as he said he would, putting them into his charm stats. While doing all of these tasks, Fex was keeping a close eye on Quinn and couldn't help but come over. "You're a strange one." "Oh, I know. I bet you're one of those blood freaks who has to find the perfect type of blood," Fex said as he shrugged his shoulders. "To me, blood is just blood. It all tastes the same no matter who it comes from." Hearing Fex say this started to make Quinn think. "System, what is the meaning of this?" Quinn asked. "I think you figured it out already," the system replied. "As I've said to you before, your vampire powers are unique, different from the others. What applies to you doesn't mean it will apply to them, and the same can be said the other way around. But this, Quinn, this is your advantage over the others." Finally, when the female student's leg was fully healed, Peter no longer felt weird about eating the leg in front of him. The first bite was the hardest, but once he got the juicy taste of flesh into his mouth, he couldn't stop. He continued until almost nothing was left but the bone. Quest update: 3 of 7 pieces of human flesh have been consumed by ghoul Peter Chuck. Once again, the energy surged through Quinn's body, but he knew it wasn't him getting stronger, but Peter instead. Maybe we should just take the easy way? Quinn thought for a brief moment, but quickly changed his mind. They took off the blindfold from the girl, and then Fex started to use his influence skill. His red eyes glowed, and so did the females he was looking at. She appeared dazed, as if she was unaware of anything around her, as if she was asleep, but with her eyes open. Fex gave simple instructions of what happened that night. He was sure not to overcomplicate things. The last thing he mentioned was telling her to sleep for another hour. While one of them watched the hallways for any oncoming students, the other would carry them and put them in a place where it would be a while before a student spotted them. Certain sections of the library, just outside the staircase on the top floors, and so on. After they finished doing everything they needed to do, they left Fex in his room on his own. The day had arrived, and Peter wasn't feeling hungry this morning, as he had eaten a meal last night, but that still didn't mean there wasn't a list of jobs they needed to do, because Duke was hot on their heels. They needed to convince him that somehow Peter was learning the ability books handed to him. So the three decided to once again split up for the morning. Vorden had memorized the students who had the regenerative ability, while Peter and Quinn had decided to pay a little visit upstairs to the VIP area. "Long time no see," Logan greeted. "It looks like you brought a friend with you as well this time." Once he sat down, Quinn started to explain what he wished Logan to do. However, this time, Quinn was afraid Logan would decline. But without saying anything, he put on his metallic glove and got to work on the watch while it was still in Peter's hand. After a few minutes, he sat back in his chair. "All done for you," he said. Now onto the watch, the number 2 was permanently displayed. "If we want to come back and increase the number, are you okay with that, Logan?" "I thought you might ask something like that, so I already did it for you," Logan said. "If you twist the top of the watch, then the numbers will change, going from 1 up to 6. So you will be able to fool anyone into thinking you have a high ability. If you ever need any help, Logan, feel free to ask me." With that said, it was almost time for the combat classes to begin, and the two of them had to leave. As they left the room, Logan quickly booted up his computer and started typing away until he suddenly stopped. "If I do this, he will probably never trust me again. It was nice speaking to a person for once, rather than a machine," Logan said. "But at the same time, I can tell you are hiding things from me, and I can only help you if I know more." "Recording device activated," the computer system said. It was time for the two to split up. Peter would head to the elemental class with Vorden, while Quinn would head to his normal weapons class. During the start of the lesson, they continued to go through the kicks that had been done the other day. Quinn worked on perfecting them, while in his head imagining the feeling of blood swiping going through his legs. It was too bad his mind had been preoccupied with other things. Otherwise, Quinn would have loved to test it out right now. While practicing, he noticed once again that Fex was standing by his own. Seeing this, Quinn decided to approach Fex. "Hey, do you want to spar?" Quinn asked. Fex got up from the floor and looked around him, noticing that there was only one person, Quinn, who was speaking to him. "Who, me?" Fex asked, tilting his head a bit. Quinn nodded. "Maybe I can use my full strength against you this time." "Yeah, right. But if you insist on an arse kicking, then I'll be happy to give you one," Fex replied with a smile. Fex was a good fighter, and Quinn was hoping to learn from him. If in the future he did become his enemy, it would be useful to learn how not only he fought, but how others fought as well. The two of them sparred using the kicking techniques only, and Leo also noticed that Fex could perform the kicks quite well. It seemed like he was performing them badly before just because he didn't want to. Still, the two of them knew not to show their true strength or speed, otherwise the others around them would start to get suspicious. While Layla and Aaron were practicing their kicks against each other, Layla noticed Aaron was incredibly distracted and was constantly looking over where Quinn and Fex were. She was never interested in Quinn before, even after learning he was a vampire, so it had to mean she was looking at Fex instead. After last night, she tried to repeat the movements while she was under control multiple times, but they just weren't right. She wanted to feel them one more time. She felt like she was close, but something was just missing. But as she looked at Fex's face, it filled her with disgust. She would never allow herself to be controlled by another person. In another training hall, the elemental class was taking place again. Vorden and Peter did their usual thing, keeping their distance from one another, but at the same time not too far. So far, the whole lesson had passed without anything happening, and it was only in the last part that the same men that approached Peter the other day had approached him once again. "So, Peter, I see you finally reached the level 2 Earth ability, but your progress is a little slow, don't you think? The Duke wants to make sure that you progress as fast as possible, and the easiest way of doing that is through a practical assessment." Although Vorden wasn't close enough to hear what they were saying, he was able to tell they were in some sort of trouble just from the look on Peter's face. Then, when he saw them walking off in a certain direction and clearing a space around the two of them, Vorden knew what was happening. They wanted to test his abilities, while Peter had no abilities. In one of the corners of the room, Peter had been taken by Bones, a tall, skinny student who also had two other students by his side. They each formed a triangle-like position, with Bones in front of Peter, while the other two stood behind him. "All right, Peter, it's time to see what you got," Bones said. However, Peter was far too nervous to hear Bones properly and was thinking about what to do to get out of this mess. "Why did these guys have to come and get me now?" Peter thought. "These guys are still trying to ruin my life. Well, if I'm going to get caught anyway, I should just kill them." Just then, Peter managed to catch Vorden walking up from behind them and then walking to the side. "Come on, Peter, are you ready or what?" Bones shouted as he was starting to get agitated. Vorden was now standing next to them. He started to perform certain moves, and earth pillars and walls were created as he performed these moves. "Does he want me to copy him?" Peter thought, but just as he was wondering, he felt a blunt object hit him in the stomach. When he looked down at what had hit him, he noticed it was an earth pillar. "I don't have all day, you little twerp," Bones shouted. Peter was surprised at how little the attack had hurt, but knowing the others would expect a reaction, he held his hands around his stomach and started to hurl forward. Peter then looked at Bones and started to copy each action Vorden was doing. First was a step on the ground. An earth wall was then lifted from the floor. Vorden made sure to create a small one, trying to mimic a level 2 user. Peter then threw out his palm, imitating Vorden, and the earth wall formed a worm-like shape. "Is that enough for you?" Peter asked. An earth pole was formed into Bones' hand, and he whacked Peter right across the face, leaving a large red mark. "That's for wasting my time. If you did that in the first place, we could have gone home already," Bones said as he started to walk away from the others. "Peter, make sure you reach level 4 in time, or else." As the three were leaving, Peter could do nothing but watch them go. He hated the fact that even though he now had the chance to fight them, he had to hide that fact. Once classes were over for the day, Vorden and Peter met up together in the library. "Okay, so, do you remember the plan?" Vorden asked. "Tonight, I want to try to get all 3 of those regenerative ability users. There are 3 places where we can most likely get them. At dinner, we can follow them just outside their dorm room or before they return to their homeroom classes. All we have to do is convince each student and lead them to Fex's room to deal with the rest." "What about the other?" Peter asked. "If I'm not satisfied after these, then does that mean we're going to have to kill more?" "We will leave that to Quinn." Logan had heard everything. After hearing what Peter and Vorden had said, Logan felt like he needed more information before coming to a logical conclusion. The words that stuck out most to him during the conversation were, "kill again." Logan then proceeded to log on to his computer and started to access the school servers. A few moments later, he was into the school system. Since the new school semester started, there were a total of 2 students dead that had been reported, one named Brandon and the other named Earl. When looking at the files, he also noticed that 2 students had been brought in for questioning, and one of them for both cases, Quinn. Vorden had caught up with Quinn and given him information on his target, saying what homeroom class they were from and also what combat classes they would attend. Quinn had gone to one of the homeroom classes to find his target. Vorden had gone to wait outside the dorm area, and lastly, Peter to the canteen. As Quinn walked down the hallway where the students were just outside their homeroom, Quinn quickly tapped the student on the shoulder. "What is it?" the student said, half annoyed as he turned, but he quickly changed his tone. "Oh, sorry, how can I help you?" he said with blush marks underneath his cheeks. He had never seen a student so handsome before. It was as if something was drawing him in. "Influence skill activated. Influence skill successful. Follow a few feet behind me. Don't say anything to anyone, understand?" The student nodded and continued to follow Quinn. Vorden found it quite easy to convince his student to do as asked after showing him his watch, threatening to beat the person if he didn't comply, and then finally, it was Peter's turn. "I'm here to deliver a message," Peter said. "General Duke has asked me to take you to him at this moment." The student agreed to leave his friends and follow Peter. It was all going well for Peter so far. The student was following and asking him what the general wanted to see him about. Whenever he asked, Peter would reply, saying the general would never tell a low-level like him information about why. However, the problem started to occur when the student realized that Peter wasn't leading them to an office, but instead toward the dorm rooms. "Where are you taking me?" he asked. "Oh, I just need to grab a few things from my room first that I forgot," Peter replied. "I thought you said it was urgent." "Is there a problem here?" a voice said. As the student turned around, he could see a black-haired student he didn't recognize, and suddenly his eyes lit up red. "Head over to room 224 and wait there," Fex commanded. This time, when faced with the dilemma of choosing who should cut off the student's limbs, Quinn had volunteered. "Here I go!" With a single swing, Quinn cut off the piece of the student's foot with a clean strike. This time, however, Vorden immediately moved towards the amputated area and started to place his hands just above it. As he did, it began to heal far quicker than it normally would. "What's that?" Peter asked. I decided to head to the nurse's office, faking that I had a temperature. The two of us touched, so I was able to copy her ability, Vorden explained. I didn't want these guys to go through the same pain as the others. They then repeated the process 2 more times with the other students, and finally, they were done with everything. 6 of 7 pieces of human flesh consumed by your ghoul. The message had appeared, and now there was only one person they had to find before Peters evolved. So, did you come up with any ideas for this last person? Vex said as he sat down on his chair with his legs up on his desk. I was thinking about this. What about Bones? Peter suggested. The person you met today? That's a bad idea, Vorden replied. He happens to work for Duke. You're already on his radar. But I think you're along the right line. We should pick someone who deserves it. Suddenly, while in the middle of their conversation, a beep sound was heard. 3 students tied up on the floor, blood parts in certain areas, and the rest casually standing around. Logan mumbled to himself. Logan had arrived in front of the door earlier, but he had decided to continue to listen in on their conversation. Perhaps he had misheard something, or the words they were saying meant something else. But after listening and deluding himself to the truth, he could no longer take it. Logan immediately brought out the black sphere-shaped ball and pressed it against his chest. The small little spider-like robots started to spread and appear around his body at a lightning speed until they formed a mechanical suit. Don't you guys move, or I swear I will blast you all, Logan said. Quinn, did they put you up to this? If they're blackmailing you, I can help you out. I have connections, you know. Logan, please, Quinn pleaded. Put the weapons down. It's not what you think. I can't, Quinn. If I lower these weapons and I don't know the truth, there's a higher chance for you all attacking me. You were involved in this case as well, and 2 previous cases before. When did he do so much research? Quinn thought. What the hell are you guys waiting for? Looks like we found your next meal ticket, Vex said as he took a step forward. A few seconds later, though, a beam of blue light had hit Vex and sent him flying up against the room wall. I did say that nobody should move, Logan said. Logan, please just give us a chance to explain. At that moment, Quinn had taken a step forward. Logan automatically reacted to this and fired once again. Quinn felt something like this might have happened, so he was prepared. Suing the shadow, he lifted it to block the energy shot, stopping it midair in the shadow. Then, moving out of the way, he moved his shadow with it, causing the shot to smash and go straight out the window. We seriously need to stop wrecking these rooms, Vorden said. Quinn, I need an answer for all this, and one that makes sense. You'll understand when I explain everything. I wanted to tell you, Logan. Do you mind if just me and you speak alone? Quinn asked. As Logan looked around the room, he realized that it would be the better option to just talk to Quinn. Give me your neck, Logan demanded. What? Why? Quinn asked. If you want me to trust you, then give me your neck, Logan said once again. Quinn did as asked and walked over while bending down slightly. Then, when Logan touched Quinn's neck, a part of his suit started to move and form a type of collar around Quinn's neck. If you try anything funny, that collar will explode, Logan said. The two of them left the room and headed upstairs to where Logan's room was located. After they left, Vex started to get up from the floor, and around his chest area, a burn mark could be seen. Who would have thought that little twip would have been so strong? Vex said as he touched his chest area. Do you think Quinn is going to be okay? Peter asked. We have to deal with this problem first, Vorden said, pointing at the students on the floor. Maybe Quinn can buy us some time, but if Logan reports us, they still can't do anything without any proof, so we need to get rid of the evidence as quickly as possible. The 3 of them nodded and got to work. Quinn and Logan were inside their room. Quinn was struggling to think about how to explain this to Logan. Not only that, but if he would believe him, and how would he react to the truth? While deep in his thoughts, an unexpected voice in his head was heard. Let him touch you again, the system said. His ability, I think I've figured out what it is. If you touch me, then it will allow me to speak to him. Logan, if you touch me, then the system will be able to explain everything. It will all make sense. I'm putting my trust in you one more time, he said, as Quinn went over with his hand held out. When the two of their hands connected, instead of normal system message, Logan was able to speak clearly to the system. The system was then also able to show images of everything that had happened to Quinn so far, including all of the conversations they had. Then, after a few minutes, Logan let go of Quinn's hand. He then raised it and touched the collar around his neck, removing it, before sitting back down in his chair. What happened? Quinn asked. I understand why you did what you did, Quinn. I can't blame you, because in a way it was the only thing you could do. The two of them sat there for a while. "You know," Logan said, "I can help you with your problem." "Problem?" "Getting the human flesh. There is a way," Logan replied. "I propose we all head upstairs to my room, because I have a solution to your little eater problem. Follow me." Logan left the room and Quinn followed behind while signaling to the others that it was all right to do so. "You guys can go ahead without me," Feck said. "I've done my part, so there are no more favors in between us." The boys, except for Fex, had finally made it into Logan's room and made sure that the door was firmly shut behind them. "Are you sure this isn't all a trap, Quinn?" Logan whispered. "I don't know," Quinn replied. "He hasn't told me anything yet, but I trust him. He helped me out with the watch and knew about my shadow abilities, yet still didn't tell anyone." Logan then logged into his computer as usual. "The problem is that you need a fresh piece of human meat, correct? So going to the cemetery is not an option," Logan explained. He then went on to a certain site. It looked exactly like the marketplace where Quinn had gone on to buy his equipment. "I will introduce you to a whole new world you probably didn't even know existed," said Logan. "We call this the Dark Marketplace. It contains items that aren't allowed to be sold in the regular marketplace. It even has a request board, one that can evade the eyes of the government." "I've heard of this before," Borden said, "but I had no clue how to access it." Logan then typed into the search bar and straight away what they were looking for appeared. The words could be seen: "Fresh human flesh available now, cut less than 24 hours ago." Quinn started to read the description and found something strange. The item had been shrunk, wrapped, and filled with nitrogen to keep it as fresh as possible. It had also been dried of all blood, so the customer could only get the flesh itself. "Logan, could you check for me? Is there any way to get blood?" Quinn asked. Logan did a quick type, and to his surprise, the screen said, "No results found." "I find it odd that there isn't blood on this. Regardless, even before vampires began to exist, some underground hospitals and groups would need them for emergencies. Perhaps I should look into this more." Logan continued to ponder on the subject. "So, are we able to order the flesh then?" Peter asked. Yes, I'll do that for you now," Logan replied. In his room, Logan had a teleporter receiver for packages. After typing the code in, the item suddenly appeared in a box. They opened it up, and it was shrunk, wrapped, and covered with ice, just like the order had said. After taking it out, they placed the meat in Peter's hands, and Logan couldn't stop staring at him. He was interested in seeing how Peter was able to eat the meat. Although Peter was a little shy, he quickly gobbled up the food. When he saw that it was similar to an animal eating meat, Logan lost his interest once again. 7 of 7 different pieces of human flesh have been consumed by your ghoul. Quest complete. Evolution process will begin." A loud groan could be heard from behind him. "Peter, what's wrong? Are you okay?" Borden said, with a worried expression. Peter was clutching his tummy with both hands. He felt like a fire was spreading out from that point all over his body. "Guys, give him some space," Quinn said. "He's evolving. I don't know what he'll turn into or what's going to happen to him next." All of them stepped back to give Peter some space. The groans coming from Peter were getting louder, and he started to shake all over. As they nervously watched Peter, they started to see visible changes in his body. His skin began to shrink and tighten and turn white all over. He didn't look sick or weak. The scene reminded Borden of what Quinn had looked like before his evolution into a full vampire. At the same time, there was something that was worrying Peter a lot more right now. His heartbeat was starting to slow down. With the pain on top of this, he thought perhaps he was dying. However, even though his heart wasn't beating anymore, he could still feel everything, and it didn't feel like he was dead at all. Then finally, his heartbeat had stopped entirely, and at the same time, so did the pain. "Congratulations! Your ghoul has successfully evolved into a white. Blood ritual skill has evolved. 1 of 3 slots remaining for the cursed family." As Peter stood up from the floor, his face looked more sunken in than before, and his skin was slightly paler. "Tell us your age, name, and where you are," Logan shouted. "I don't answer to you," Peter snapped. "I will only answer to one," he said, pointing at Quinn. Quinn then repeated the question. "Peter Chuck, 16, and we are inside Logan's room, sir." Satisfied with the answers, Logan put his hand down, but also made sure not to take the mechanical weapon. "Inspect. Name, Peter Chuck. Race, white. Stats will correspond with creator until it reaches its limit." Seeing the last bit of information had given Quinn a surprise. This meant right now that Peter had the same stat points as Quinn. He was just as strong and just as fast. "What is a white, though?" Quinn asked. "An undead creature which is fast and sneaky in the night. They are best used as a form of an assassin. Whites have a high level of intelligence, similar to humans, although their personalities could not be said to be the same. They are lawful to their creator, but once they see someone as their enemy, they will do everything in their power to get rid of them. Whites are immune to poison, sleep, paralysis, mind control, and diseases. They also contain a skill that will allow them to turn a killed victim into another lesser white. 0 of 2. "Is everything okay? Do we still need to feed him human flesh?" Vorden asked. "It's all right. Peter, you are no longer a ghoul. You're now something known as a white," Quinn replied. After explaining everything to Peter, he finally understood why his heart had stopped beating. He was an undead creature, no longer alive. Everyone in the room could finally relax and sit down. It was finally all over. But there was one upcoming situation left that they had to deal with. That was worrying him about this. His next meeting with Duke is in a few days. "I have a question," Vorden said. "How did you figure out what we were up to? I planted a listening device into Peter's wristwatch when you asked me to make adjustments. I felt like you were hiding something, so this was the best cause of action." "It's okay. Logan, are we still friends?" Quinn asked. "We're friends?" Logan replied with an odd look on his face. "Of course. Friends help each other out, and you've helped me more than ever," Quinn explained. "Well, if that's the case, this seems to be a one-way friendship, since you haven't helped out with anything at all yet," Logan replied. "You're right," Quinn said. "I haven't helped you when you helped me so much. You know that briefcase from before? Well, my system says it was made by Richard Eno." The biggest worry looming over their heads had finally disappeared, but that didn't mean they were completely in the clear. While Vorden and Peter had decided to go back to their rooms, Quinn decided he would go visit the girls and update them on the situation. After a knock on the door, he spoke through the door to confirm it was him, and the three of them then went for a walk down the hallway while Quinn explained everything that happened. "So, he won't have to eat humans anymore, and there is no need to get involved with that Fex kid again? Good," Aaron said. Still, after Quinn had told them everything, Layla could tell that something else was on his mind. "What's wrong? Is there another problem?" she asked. Quinn then proceeded to tell them the situation with Duke, how they desperately wanted Peter to learn the level 4 Earth ability by the end of the week. The major problem was Peter didn't have an Earth ability, and he was too involved to cut ties. "Wait, did you say the end of this week, this Sunday?" Layla asked. "Yeah, that's what Peter told us," Quinn replied. Layla was visibly shaken after she heard this news, but she forced her facial expression to remain neutral. The message she had received from one of the Pure agents was True Dream would be coming at the end of the week. One of the Pure group's biggest targets was True Dream. He was the whole reason why the military was able to keep such a strong grip on everyone. The reason why he was coming, of course, was to take students' abilities from them and add them to his men. And Peter had been selected as one of the targets. The sun had finally risen. A few people around the school had struggled to sleep through the night, and Layla was one of them. Throughout the whole night, she had been pondering how to inform the others. Every term, True Dream would visit a different military base. However, it turned out that he had visited a particular one more often than the others, and that was Military Base 2. This was the reason why Layla had been sent to this place. Something strange was going on with Military Base 2. They hadn't been able to figure out what yet, because so far, every agent they sent had disappeared. Thus, they decided to do things differently this time, so instead of sending a grown-up, they decided to send an agent, who was at the age of the draft, a student. Layla had entered the school using false documents. Her family wasn't prominent, but she didn't mind if she was to lose her ability. She had only obtained it for the mission in the first place. The only thing that she didn't want was to end up like Peter and be the military's lapdog. She needed an outside person, where she could observe everything that was happening without getting involved. With all things said, she didn't have to warn them about what could happen, but Layla wanted to. The question left was, how should she go about explaining what she had discovered? The morning combat classes had started, and Layla had wanted to team up with Quinn, hoping she would be able to get a hint on what they were planning with Peter. Unfortunately, before she could even reach Quinn, he had already gone off to Fex. "What are you daydreaming about?" Aaron shouted. The two girls continued to train together using the leg techniques, but a slip in Layla's concentration caused her to drop her guard. She wasn't able to lift her knee in time, as how she would usually during practice, and instead, Layla took a full-blown kick from Erin to her side. "Ouch!" Layla exclaimed as she dropped to the floor while gripping her side. "What's wrong? We have practiced that kick so many times. I was sure you would be able to block something like that," Erin said as she walked over and offered her hand to her fallen comrade. Layla lifted her hand to grab Erin's, but the pain on her side hurt even more. Furthermore, she noticed a stinging pain arise every time she breathed. "What the hell? I knew your sword skills were monstrous, but where did you get such strength in your kicks? I think you broke one of my ribs." "Would you stop complaining?" Erin said as she knelt. "Can someone call the guard and take her to the doctor's office?" Leo said. Erin then lifted Layla from the ground, allowing her to use her shoulder for support. "Don't worry, I'll take her," Erin said. The two girls then started to leave the room together. As they were walking, Layla couldn't help but feel useless and pathetic. "Would you please stop crying? I didn't mean to hit you that hard. You usually block something like that," Erin said, in an attempt to comfort Layla. Layla didn't even notice, since her thoughts were so muddled that tears were now slowly descending from her eyes. She wiped them away and simply put on a brave smile. "Oh, it's not that. I was just thinking about how useless I am to the team whenever we're in a fight," Layla said. "Well, you're not wrong about that," Erin replied, not realizing how harsh she sounded. Although Erin was right, it still hurt Layla to hear it straight from her mouth. "But you help in other ways. You were the one who thought about that blood bowl, remember? I can't say much, but honestly, if you weren't there to hold me back sometimes, I would have already shoved a few spikes up the boys' backsides." Layla laughed. "Erin, this is kind of a strange question to ask, but are we friends?" Back at the training hall, the lesson had just finished for the day. "Hey, I know this is kind of strange to ask after everything that happened between us, but what are you planning to do after this?" Fex asked. "Me? I was planning to go to the VR gaming room," Quinn replied. "VR gaming room? What's that?" Fex asked, with a little bit of excitement in his eyes. "I can show you if you want. You want to come along?" "Well, I mean, if you want me to come that bad, sure," Fex replied. Fex was standing casually outside in the sun, and Quinn could see it didn't affect him at all. While Quinn had to prepare his trusty umbrella, seeing this, Fex couldn't help but giggle at the thought that Quinn looked like an old man. "What are you doing with that old thing?" Fex asked. "Do you not have a ring?" He lifted his hand, showing the small ring. Quinn was now close enough to see that it did look like the one in his shop. Quinn didn't know how to reply to Fex. The system had informed him that one of these rings were the basics of vampires. "Oh, I see now," Fex said. "You're one of those vampires raised here on Earth, aren't you? Trained to blend in and report back? I guess that's why you didn't go through the formal initiation and don't have one of these." "Was the initiation hard?" Quinn asked. Fex started to laugh nervously at this question. "Was it hard? Of course it was hard. Yet I was one of the youngest vampires to ever complete it. You see, the initiation is getting the materials for the ring itself. A young vampire must go out and slay 10 death bats." Fex finished, a little bit depressed. As they continued to walk to the VR center, Fex looked at his ring and felt a little guilty. He had lied to Quinn just now. He hadn't earned the ring like he said he did. He had gone out and traveled and fought against the death bat, but after a gruesome fight and near-death experience with one, he decided to go on to the marketplace and hire some travelers to hunt the beasts for him. With this, he managed to gather most of the crystals needed to make the ring. But his last traveler who accepted the contract never replied. In the end, it was all thanks to the blood evolver who placed the crystal in the marketplace that he was able to craft the ring. They had finally arrived at the VR room, and it was a sight that Fex had never seen before. They went to the counter, and Quinn paid for both him and Fex. They both got into the pods and logged into the game. Fex's whole mind was then transported to the large, empty white lobby space. Just as Fex was in deep thought thinking about it, he had received a friend request. "User ID Blood Evolver would like to add you." Fex carefully looked at each letter of the word in front of him one by one, that it was the same user ID that was also used in the marketplace when he had bought the beast crystal. When Fex first saw the crystal, he thought maybe someone had killed a bat along the way and didn't know what to do with it, and chose to sell it after finding out it could only be used to create a silly ring. But now, thinking about it more, all sorts of questions started running through his head. He accepted the friend request, and immediately Quinn was transported to the same white space that Fex was in as well. "Foxy Fex?" Quinn said, looking at his username. "What, you don't like it?" Fex said. Better than blood evolver. What are you trying to do? Tell everyone out there you're a vampire? Quinn laughed nervously back. I thought it would be vague enough. Plus, who else but other vampires would think that? Quinn replied. This was the confirmation Fex needed. While standing there and thinking about everything, Fex could see Quinn using his blood skills in the game. Not only that, but he was able to use them constantly without getting tired. What is that? Fex asked. This? Quinn replied. Quinn then explained how while in the lobby of the game, they were able to practice using their vampire skills without tiring out. After trying out a few skills here and there, Fex had a big grin on his face. He then started performing his martial arts while mixing in the blood skills. Still, what had impressed Quinn the most while watching him practice was the martial arts he was performing with his fists. When Fex had stopped, he walked over to Quinn with a hop in his step. Hey man, this is great! I wonder why the vampires don't have a bunch of these in their buildings. It could help the kids train. That's right, you didn't learn any, did you, since you grew up here and everything? You know I can teach you the martial arts if you want. Fex thought this was a great idea. He wanted to repay Quinn for getting him the beats crystals he needed, and this could be his way of returning the favor secretly. Really? Would that be okay? Quinn asked. Why not? You're a vampire, so you have the right to learn it. Do you remember what I did to your friend on the roof? Well, if you let me do the same to you, then I can show you how to use martial arts. My string puppet is unique, so when you perform it, it will feel like I'm performing the skills through your body, Fex explained. What Fex was offering wasn't a bad proposal. The problem was whether or not Quinn could trust him with his body. Is there a risk to this? Quinn asked the system. I think you should go for it, the system replied. In terms of other vampires, you're a bit weak and on the wimpy side. I think this would be a major progress for you. I'm talking about him taking control of me. What happens if it becomes permanent? It won't be. Vampires can't have other vampires as their puppets permanently. So there is the possibility he could use me to hurt those around me, even for a short period if he wanted to? That was when Quinn came up with an idea of his own. Let me think about it for now, Quinn replied. Why don't I show you how to play first? A match had been confirmed, and Fex was transported to the seating area in the arena. He could see Quinn standing on one end while his opponent stood on the other. His opponent was skinny, tall, and seemed to resemble a tree. What surprised him, though, was the fact that when he was sitting in the seating area, he wasn't the only one watching Quinn's fight. Hey, you're new, Nate said, looking at Fex. What is all this? Fex asked, looking confused. Is everyone here to see the two of them fight? He looked at the stand, noticing the crowd that had formed. There were 50 people in total, all dressed up in different avatars. Of course, it seems like Blood Evolver has gained quite a following, Nate replied. So, are you implying that all these people are here to see the Blood Evolver? Fex asked. What makes him so special? Nate thought about that for a while, looking deep in thought. After some time had passed, he finally came up with an answer. At first, it was his skills that interested me, much like everyone else here. But after that, I noticed something. Every time he came back to play the game, he would have grown in strength by leaps and bounds. And for some reason, watching someone grow from a small little fish into a fierce dragon is exciting for me, Nate explained, glancing at the match. Now let's see how much you've grown this time. The countdown for the match had begun, and it was time for the two of them to fight. Immediately, the tree-like student placed both of his hands on the ground. As he did, multiple thick tree roots started to form across the floor and spiraled their way towards Quinn. The first thing he did was perform a blood swipe at the roots, hoping to cut them down. As the attack reached the roots, it caused the first set to break, but it would keep coming forward. Windwalk activated. With his Tier 2 boots, he was able to outmaneuver the roots. Although there were many roots, and his blood swipes couldn't deal with all of them, he was able to outrun them with his speed. He circled the attack and came to the student's side, preparing himself to try something he had been itching to try out since he had joined the game. Flash Step! Performing the Flash Step, he avoided the attack and was now even closer to his opponent. Trees, protect me! The wood user shouted, and suddenly the user was surrounded by all sides with thick tree trunks. It was as if a forest had suddenly sprouted in the middle of the battlefield. This is perfect, Quinn thought. Stopping in his tracks, he firmly planted both feet on the floor. Then, from his toes, moving up to his hip, he swung out his leg like a whip. A single large line of red energy left with it, shaped like the crescent moon. It was far larger than that of his regular blood swipe. As it hit the first set of tree trucks, it managed to slice through them with ease. The tree user ducked down in time, avoiding the attack from cutting his head off. But Quinn wasn't done yet. He hopped and changed his stance slightly, performing the same kick with his other leg, cutting the trees down from the other side. Both sides of the tree trunks shook due to the slightly angled cut and fell to the floor. The wood user was now panicking, but before he could even act, Quinn was already above him, performing the final axe kick, followed by a blood swipe. Level 4 opponent has been defeated. 10 EXP gained, 80 of 100 experience points. Congratulations, a new skill has been created, Blood Crescent Kick. It seems like you have gotten stronger once again, Nate said. A new skill, but how? Quinn thought. Impressive, the system said. It seems like you managed to create a unique skill. This is a skill that you made all on your own, one that was not part of the system originally. Fex, having witnessed the whole thing, was quite amazed. Did he come up with that skill himself? Yet, he doesn't even know the basic hand-to-hand combat of the vampires. As he was deep in thought, he heard a laugh by his side. Looks like another one has been converted into a fan, Nate said. You wouldn't believe it, but every time he fights, he shows me something new. This kid is growing stronger fast. Every time? Fex replied. Are you sure he didn't just use these skills before? I'm positive, Nate replied. If what Nate was saying was true, Quinn was getting stronger at an incredibly fast pace, one that hadn't been seen throughout the history of vampires. Perhaps he is related to them. But I thought they all died out. If it's true, it would make sense why he has the shadow ability. Did they just move to Earth instead? Just as he was leaving the game, he had received a single message from Nate. I'll see you soon, and make sure you join the fighting event. Quinn knew exactly what he was talking about. The upcoming military base event. Soon all the bases would meet up to compete in special events, each trying to show that they were able to raise the best and strongest students. Quinn was excited for once. Perhaps with this event, he would finally be able to show his strength. Inside the VR gaming room, one of the pod doors was abruptly opened, and out stepped a fairly domineering man with a burly build physique. A month left, huh? I just wonder how much stronger you can get in that meantime, Nate said with a smile on his face. A few seconds later, a hissing sound was heard from the pod next to his. As the pressure was slowly released from the sealed door, it started to lift, and Nate saw a friendly face peeking in between the aperture. Hey, that guy keeps getting better in every attempt, doesn't he? Sam said. I don't even know if I could beat him in a real battle the way he is now. You shouldn't talk down to yourself like that, Nate replied. Remember, he's only a first year, and there are two major differences between the first years and the second years. One is our equipment, Nate said, pointing to the cape that was on Sam's back. And the second one is our soul weapons. I don't know many first years who have been able to produce a soul weapon, and it's only something that they teach you in your second year. The two of them started to walk back to their dorm rooms. It was already evening and getting late, so it was nearly time for them to go to bed. When the morning arrived, they began to do their normal routine. After eating breakfast, it was time for them to head to their homeroom class. As they entered the room, they felt the strange atmosphere that was hovering in the air. For one, the homeroom teacher hadn't arrived yet, and usually the homeroom teacher would be there to welcome their arrival. As they both listened carefully to the students who were engaged in their conversations, they managed to catch a few words. They eventually found out what all the commotion was about. Hey, did you see her? What, that new teacher? Yeah, she's so beautiful. I wonder how strong she is. Aren't all military tutors quite strong? Most, but not all of them. She might just have a unique ability or was very knowledgeable in a club subject. All of a sudden, the sound of the classroom door sliding was heard. Her skin was as white as the pure specks of snow. Although her features looked soft, no expression was plastered on her countenance. Still, the thing that stood out the most about her was her silver hair. She was wearing the black standard military uniform that they all had to wear. Hello students, my name is Silver, and I will be your new homeroom teacher from now on. Silver started to scan the entirety of the gathering, looking at the students one by one, but it merely reminded her that she might have to stay in the school for a while. As the file said, it appears that Fex isn't here. Silver had been tasked with the mission of finding and bringing Fex back to his family. Without saying anything, she started to walk around the room and gaze at the faces of the students more closely. Fex and I will complete my mission and bring you back, even if I have to hurt you, dear brother." As usual, when Logan was explaining things, he would display what he was looking at on his computer screen to the others through a hologram. "When I woke up this morning, I was surprised to see an envelope on the floor," said Logan. "To my surprise, there was a small little nano stick inside with a note." The screen had changed, and right now, a scanned version of the note was being displayed to the others. "In this nanostick is some information on one of the Big Four family members, more specifically its leader known as True Dream. The reason why I have passed this note on to you is that, unfortunately for all of you, True Dream will be arriving in a few days." At the end of the letter, attached to the bottom, was a stamp, and everyone in the room recognized it well. It was the group known as Pure. The files changed once again, and this time they contained reports of the previous visits that True Dream had done. It also informed them of True Dream's true purpose for coming to the base. The fact that every time he visited, few students would be chosen, and soon after their abilities were gone. It also showed that there was a pattern to these things, and how he seemed to visit the second military base more often than the others. Logan said, "I remember you telling me that for some reason, Duke had deliberately wanted Peter to reach a level 4. Not only was Peter originally weak, but he also had no strong family background. Sure, his family would be upset if he was to lose his powers or disappear, but no further steps would be taken, and everyone would soon forget, just like the students before," Logan explained. "And if they find out that Peter has no abilities anymore, they will start asking questions all over again, and it could lead them back to us," Borden said. "Not just the vampire stuff, but when they find out we were close to Peter, they might start looking into the deaths and more." "We have 2 days," Logan said. Finally, after a long talk, they had come up with a plan that seemed to have a good chance of working. In the VIP area, Logan had set tiny miniature cameras that were close to invisible to the human eye. As the video played, it was clear as day that Layla was the one who had delivered the letter. After meeting with Logan, the boys only had a little time before lunch would end, and they would head to their combat classes. "So who is this True Dream guy? Is he a big deal?" Fex asked. "True Dream is different from the other big families," Borden said. "For one, most of his family consists of multiple different ability users. This is due to the nature of his ability. The second thing is True Dream had discovered the ability himself later in life. We believe he is the first to have this power. His ability is unique, and we're not even sure if he can pass it on for others to learn or not. The military who are partners with him like to keep it this way. Remember, it's only because of him that so many of those in power chose to not disobey. Anyone who tries to fight back or rebel get their powers taken away. Once your ability gets taken away, there's no way for the body to learn another one, and for some reason, it seems like True Dream's ability stops you from completely producing any more mutant cells for your old ability." After the boys finished talking, it was time for them to split up and head for their combat classes. Before doing so, Peter changed his number from an ability level of 2 to a 3. This way, Bones could see he was progressing and report back to Duke. Fex and Quinn weren't really in the mood to practice all out. They were too busy thinking about the plan they had to initiate. In the middle of their practice, Fex asked Quinn a question. "Hey, that ghoul, he evolved, right? So I'm guessing you sorted everything out. Do you know what he evolved into?" "He's something called a white. Well, a white's strength is mirrored by his creator's strength, and his creator has to be a leader," Fex explained. Although Fex didn't say anything else, he had kept a few things to himself. Whites were known to only follow one person. Otherwise, their natural nature would take over, and they would go on a rampage. Many of them had to be destroyed once their masters had been slain, otherwise they would attack everyone in sight. Earlier Fex mentioned there being family leaders, and then you mentioned that I was one as well. What does he mean by that? The vampires are controlled by a council. The council is split up into 13 different leaders and a vampire king or queen. These are also what are known as families. When you created Peter and made your family name, you automatically became a member of the council. But then, why would they be after me? Quinn asked. And wouldn't this mean I would be safe if they found out about Peter? Quinn, the vampire race like to seem like they are working together, but they are just as cruel and power-hungry as humans. When the vampire king or queen decides to go into eternal slumber, then a new king shall be selected from one of the 13 leaders. While the current king or queen is still present, they must do as they say. But once they disappear, it will turn into a cruel battleground. You are a leader in name only. A shortcut was created due to the system. A lowly vampire like you is too weak. To become a vampire leader, one at least must have the rank of a vampire lord. The ranks are as follows. You have a vampire, vampire noble, a vampire knight, a vampire lord, and finally, the vampire king or queen. There are also the subclasses such as Peter within these ranks, but they can never rise above their leaders or creators. Each vampire has a basic set of skills. However, the 13 different families are each divided into different abilities they have. This does not mean they are all related by blood. However, before learning an ability, a vampire must go through a blood ritual with that family, meaning they can never go against them. Only then will they teach that vampire their ability. An example of this is the Sanguinus family that Fex is a part of, who can control string. Still, this does not mean a vampire cannot learn an ability outside of the 13, but if they chose to do this, they will never be promoted within the ranks of the family they have chosen to follow. Wait, Quinn said. Does that mean my ability belongs to one of the 13? Your shadow ability is not part of the 13 families, the system replied. But I warn you to not use your ability in front of others. The only thing I can say for now is your ability carries history for the vampires that they wish to forget. They would only target you more. Over at the elemental training hall, they too were doing the same lessons as usual, and as lessons were about to finish, they had free time to do what they wanted, and once again, Bones had come over with his 2 men and confronted Peter. "Peter!" Bones shouted. "What do you say to one more sparring match before tomorrow, huh?" Peter's hands had gripped and wrapped around Bones' mouth, his fingers placed at the side of his jaw. Bones immediately retaliated, trying to create a pillar of earth from below Peter's feet. As soon as Peter had felt the slightest bit of vibration from below, he knew what was coming. But he didn't move. He waited for the pillar to rise while continuing to hold on to Bones. Then, at the last second, as the pillar rose from below, Peter stepped back and pulled Bones into his pillar, allowing it to hit him right in the chin. Now standing by Peter's side was Vorden. "Look, just ignore them. They're trash, right? They're not worth our time," Vorden argued. "Huh, you're right about that," Peter said as he took off with Vorden out of the training center. As Vorden and Peter were outside, Vorden decided it was best if they headed back to the dorm room for now and stayed there. Finally, Quinn had returned from his class, and the first thing Vorden did was ask if the 2 of them could speak alone in private. Vorden had explained what had happened today in the training hall, and he also told him his worries about Sunday when he was to meet Trudring. "I know I have mentioned it before," said Vorden. "Trying to go through with this plan, I think, is riskier than getting rid of Peter," Vorden said. "I think we can do Peter justice when we leave school in 2 years. We'll look after his family. We can make our faction, and the money we earn from being travelers, we will send them a portion each month." "I, for one, don't think this is a good idea," the system said. "First, you will be unable to kill Peter even if you decide to go through with this. You would have to stand by as you watch someone you know kill Peter, and although he is loyal to you, he would not just stand there without putting up a fight. The second thing goes to the matter we spoke of before. You were lucky Peter turned into a white. It is quite a powerful ally to have. Right now, you need to gather and keep all the power you can get. It's not a question of if the vampires will come, Quinn, it's when." Suddenly, as these thoughts filled Quinn's mind, a strange feeling came over him once again. It was the family connection from the blood ritual. "I can't do it, Vorden," Quinn said. "He's family now, and so are you and the others." "All right, Quinn, we'll stick with the plan." The next day it was the weekend, so the group had no classes for the day. Instead, they met in Logan's room once more. Each of them went over the details of their plan, while Logan also handed each a strange, round, circular pin to be put on their clothes. It looked similar to a button and blended well into their uniform. There was also a separate circular small speaker that was to be placed in the ear. These 2 items were a set that was to be used to communicate with each other. The only person who didn't receive one was Peter, as they knew he would be taken away. However, a microphone was once again installed into his watch so they could hear everything that was happening. After a good night's rest, it was finally Sunday, the day Trudring would finally arrive at the school. It was now Sunday morning, and the 8 sergeants had all gathered inside the portal hall. The doors to the training hall soon opened, and every one of the sergeants immediately gave a salute to the 4 men who had entered the room. Duke, the head of the second-year students, Nathan, the head of the first-year students, and Mike stood in the center. Then, finally, standing behind the 3 of them was a man in a black and white tailored suit. It was the head general, Paul. "Nathan, I'm afraid I have some bad news for you," said Paul. The upcoming portal outing for the first-year students will not be a green portal like how we originally planned it, but it will be an orange portal instead." Hearing this, Nathan's eyes widened. "Sir, this is crazy. They're only first-year students. Why do we need to push them so fast?" "There are reports that the Dalki are becoming more aggressive with their exploration. War will soon be waged, and the Dalki do not discriminate. Whether they are children or not, they should get the experience now. I will permit you to send a couple of sergeants with them for their safeguarding rather than the regular teachers, but that's it." The generals now stood a few feet away from the circular teleporter. Paul lifted his wrist to look at his watch, checking the time. It was currently 8:59. 9 o'clock. As soon as the watch displayed 9, the portal started to warp slightly, and 3 figures could be seen coming through. Standing in the center was a bald man who wore sunglasses, and he had also donned a suit. "Jack!" greeted Paul. "It's been a while." Although Jack Truedream didn't look impressive by himself, the 2 men who came out of the portal beside him did. One of them was a large fellow whose height was nearly 7 feet. He was completely covered in a gray-colored beast equipment, which looked similar to a rhino, while he carried a large 2-handed axe on his back. By his side was an individual who was the complete opposite, a small, skinny fellow. This person was wearing beast equipment that was dark green in hue and had a mask covering his face, although instead of heavy armor like the other person, he wore light armor. The fact that Jack felt the need to bring these 2 was to remind them of the power that his family had. "I was hoping to speak to your sergeants who discovered one of our family members." That was the real reason why Jack had decided to visit the military base. Perhaps whatever had killed Ian was the same thing that killed one of his top men. Right now, both Jack and Haley were inside the medical office. "When you recovered his body, other than the 2 boys that were with him in the place, was there anything else or anything inside?" Jack asked. "Nothing that I can remember, although now that you mention it, it did seem a little strange," Haley said. "What do you mean?" "Well, even though everything was supposedly destroyed, the whole training center was left untouched, due to it being made of lithium. It looks like not a single beast had managed to get inside the place. Yet, when we entered, it seemed like the whole place had been trashed, as if a huge brawl had taken place." "It sounds like Ian must have fought something while he was in there," Jack said. "Do you have the names of the 2 boys? If they were there, then they must have at least seen something." The 2 students' files were brought up. The first one was Quinn. Jack quickly scanned it over, but as soon as he saw he was only a level 1 ability user, he quickly disregarded it. The next person was Vorden, who interested him. On his file, it stated his initial testing was a level 5, but next to it in brackets, they said it was subject to changes, and it was also stated that he was an original. Vorden Blade. After reading this name out loud, a memory had popped into his head. Several years ago, Jack had had his power for a few years now, and his family members were starting to grow. He had been called in for a meeting. This meeting was between the big 3 powers, the strongest originals. They had acknowledged the strength Jack and his family had at that time. However, one thing had stuck in his mind. There was one rule they stated before he left: to never touch the Blade family. "If you ever meet one of them, you have 2 choices," one of the men said. "Stay away or help them, but if you go against them, not even we can help you." Although it was a Sunday, all the students had been told to gather in the assembly hall for a special occasion. Right now, standing up on the stage was Duke, and behind him were the 2 men who had arrived with Jack. "All right, is everyone ready?" Logan asked. Right now, Logan had a small earpiece that acted as a microphone, while the others, apart from Peter, had the same. It was time for them to put their plan into action. "Ready," they all replied. Quinn and Vorden were standing relatively close to each other, while Peter was standing a row in front of them, so they could keep an eye on him, while the girls stood directly at the front of the class. Their section was stationed closest to the stage, while right at the back towards the exit was Logan. To his surprise, it seemed like Fex was in the same homeroom class as him. "Rayton, you remember the plan, right?" Vorden asked. "As soon as you finish with what needs to be done, then you get out of there. I don't care if someone looks interesting to fight, or if someone looked at you the wrong way. We need to disappear immediately after you're done." "Will you shut up?" Rayton snapped back. "For the last 2 days you've said the same thing over and over to me." The 2 abilities he needed were already stored for the day. Right now, they just needed for the assembly to be over. Quinn, on the other hand, was worried for Peter. The system recommended giving Peter some of his blood, which he did, and he gave the order not to attack Duke or Jack. The only way that Peter could disobey this order is if his life was put on the line, Then self-preservation would override Quinn's orders. "Please clap for Mr. True-Dream," Duke said as he walked off the stage. Mr. True-Dream then got up from his seat and came up from the side of the stage. As he stepped forward, so did the two guards next to him. "I have a close relationship with the military, and I visit every base each year. But I have to say, out of all the military bases, this is my favorite one. I also seem to get the most and the best gifts directly delivered to my doorstep here," Jack said with a smile. Most likely those gifts he was talking about were the students given to him right after this assembly. While the speech continued, from the bottom of Logan's sleeve, one of the small mechanical spiders crawled down his shirt and hopped off his shoe. "All right, guys, it's all set," Logan whispered. As Jack left the stage, Duke returned. He had one last thing to say to everyone. "Before I dismiss you all to enjoy the rest of your day off, I would like these 8 students to stay behind. Ray Dem, Howard Hubby, Wilford Green, Sarah Beeswax, Michael Briscoe, Amy Yellop, Peter Chuck, and finally Aaron Haley. These students please stay behind and come to the front of the stage. The rest may leave." The students left the room one by one. After hearing the final name that had been called, the whole group was shocked at what they had heard. The final name was Aaron. As Logan waited outside, he realized the others hadn't come out with him, so he took a bite of his sandwich before he said, "Guys, come on, we need to start our plan straight away. I know this is a shock, but that shouldn't deviate us from the original plan. Instead of saving 1, now we just need to save 2. With Logan's words, the group quickly snapped out of it and made their way out of the assembly hall with everyone else. The students, whose names were announced, went to the front of the stage, wondering what was about to happen. Erin, on the other hand, was panicking. Her head was spinning. The thoughts and memories she had kept within were starting to surface. Her family worked under one of the Big Four, and they had established a shelter on one of the orange portal planets. They had done a good job getting rid of the few advanced-tier beasts that lived on the place. At last, they had moved up high enough in the family's ranks to obtain a place back on Earth. But on that fateful day, a Dalki ship had invaded the planet. The Dalki came and attacked. And at that moment, she witnessed her father being stabbed in the chest. As she stood there frozen, one of her father's old friends managed to rescue her. A female dressed in pure sparkling white came through the portal. Erin saw her pass by. She fought against the Dalki on her own and was able to go toe-to-toe with it. Erin cried a lot that day. Her tears wouldn't stop coming. She cried for all the people that had been lost. The woman who had defeated the Dalki walked up to Erin, but unlike what the others thought should be said to a child, she didn't give any words of comfort to Erin, but only gave her the harsh truth. "If you ever want to see your family or friends die again, then you have to become stronger." She had been selected because she no longer had the status her family once had. With everyone gone, she had been sent a token gesture of money from one of the Big Four, just enough for her to live off of for the rest of her life, but the political protection their family had was now gone. Following closely behind the row of students was the mechanical spider Logan had sent after them. Right now, Logan had returned to his room, and he was monitoring the direction of the spider. He was also looking at a 3D map of the whole school. On it, there were several different indicators, each one being a different person from their group. "Okay, Fax. It looks like they're heading for one of the meeting rooms located on the 2nd floor of the west side. Layla, you stay close behind him. Once you turn and reach the end of the corridor, stay and wait in position." The 2 guards were stuck to Jack like glue. "When Quinn and Vorden are ready, I will give the command and you guys will move out." Jack entered the meeting room followed by the 8 students. One of his guards had also entered the room with them, while the other stayed outside, guarding the door. Quinn and Vorden were at one side of the corridor, while Fex and Layla were at the other side, patiently waiting for Logan's order. "All right, Raiden," Vorden said. "Looks like you're up." In the meeting space, the 8 selected students were all lined up in one row. They stood straight, nervously, all the while thinking just why they had been chosen to meet Jack True-Dream. Concurrently, Erin was doing everything to keep her cool. As she looked to her left, she could see Peter standing calmly beside her. Of course, he didn't have to worry about anything, since his powers wouldn't be taken away. However, it was different for her. She constantly moved her head, trying to see if she can escape. "Now, you might be wondering why you have all been brought here in front of me today," said Jack. "It seems like, either one way or another, you have been suspected of a dangerous crime." Halting his speech, Jack slammed his hand on the table. "The punishment that has been handed to you is to have your abilities taken away." As soon as Jack said those words, a couple of students dropped to their knees, complaining, "But I didn't do anything, this can't be right." This was a deal-breaker for Erin. She had to do something, otherwise she would lose her ability forever. Hence, with a resolute countenance, she faced Jack and uttered, "But we didn't do anything, sir," Erin said. "If you do this, people will find out about your made-up lies. We can just tell everyone the truth." "Oh, don't you worry about that. Once I take your abilities away, you shall all pay a special visit to the dungeon. The school will then report to the rest. You were all working for Pure. With that, the students' curiosity will disappear, and with it, your existence." The green armored guard from earlier then started to walk over to the students. "A sleeping ability?" Erin mumbled. "Ding, ding, ding. Like I said, I'm not a monster. Although by the time that you guys wake up, you will already be in the dungeons." The guard had gone through the other students, and it was finally Erin's turn. When the guard went to place his finger on her head, she immediately swung out her arm, aiming for his temple. To her dismay, the guard didn't react at all. He continued with his task. Accordingly, she was not able to resist, and a few seconds later she was asleep like all the others. Finally, it came to Peter's turn. Willingly, before the man had even placed his finger on his forehead, he had closed his eyes. Once the green liquid was placed on his head, all the students were ready. Jack then looked at the green guard and cleared his throat out loud, signaling for the guard to leave. The mechanical spider remained inside the room, while Peter's watch recorded everything. "Everyone go! Both guards are outside, and only Mr. Truedream and the students are inside." The group outside had received the message from Logan to proceed. The first ones to make a move would be Fex and Layla. Right behind the two of them were two random first-year students. A slight tint of red could be seen in their eyes. When Fex commanded them, they started to glow slightly. A few seconds later, they were on the move. "Hey, what are you doing? Get out of here," the larger guard said. "It's time for them to get out of here." Pulling the strings back, Fex started to dash down the hallway. The students began to imitate Fex's movements and ran off as well, following his direction. The large guard followed them, but was quite slow with his heavy gear. Layla saw the students dashing towards the hallway, right around the corner, which meant soon the bulky guard would soon follow them, around the same corner. The second guard was still standing outside. As long as he was there, Vorden and Quinn wouldn't be able to get inside. She looked around to see if there was anything she could do. The only thing she could see was a plant pot down the hallway. Lifting it with her telekinesis ability, she started to levitate it in the air and floated it across the hall towards the green guard. The guard spotted it floating about slowly coming towards him, but he remained there still. When the pot was finally in front of his face, he lashed out, smashing it and allowing it to drop to the floor, yet he still hadn't moved from his position. "Looks like I'm just going to have to kick his arse," Rayton said. "No, Vorden, this whole plan, we need you to cause the biggest distraction inside, you know that," Quinn said. "Leave this guy to me." Inside the meeting room, Jack was preparing himself. He straightened up the tie on his suit and then licked his lips, making sure they weren't too dry. "This is the worst part," Jack said. He walked up to the first student and bent down, so the two were at eye level. His head was now right next to the student's. Grabbing the person by the head, he pulled it forward, pressing his lips against theirs. Suddenly, Jack could feel the energy from the student entering his body, so he continued to go down the line, pressing his lips against each student, draining their abilities. Finally, he had reached Erin. "Now here is someone I don't mind pressing my lips against," Jack said, as he looked at Erin's delicate face and realized she was a true beauty. The energy flowed through Erin's body and slowly entered Jack's. "All right, last one." Jack then moved his face closer to Peter. He closed his eyes as he went to press his lips. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Peter said. His eyes were wide open, and he was staring at Jack, who was standing right in front of his face. "Kitty, get in here right now! One of them is awake!" Jack shouted, very much panicked and frightened. Just as Kenny was about to open the door, a shadow raised from underneath, blocking his path. He quickly reacted, taking a few steps back. "What is this thing? Is it some kind of ability?" Of course, it was Quinn. He had used his shadow cloak ability to sneak up to the remaining guard in the hallway, and when he heard Jack Truedream screaming for help, he had decided to distract the guard, to give Vorden a chance to sneak into the room and take care of Jack. The guard looked around to see if there was any other way into the room, and that's when he spotted someone. A man dressed in a black suit of armor, wearing a demon mask covering his face. Even the top of his head was covered, showing him the jagged white mechanical eyes of the suit. "Is it you?" the guard asked. He knew he had to get inside quickly because of the main weakness his boss had, which was that he couldn't use the abilities he took from others. He was only able to give them to other people. So at the moment, he was defenseless without his guards. Quinn said nothing in response and started to dash forward, bringing the shadow from the door back to him, and it was now hovering above him. The guard saw this and immediately threw several needles, but the shadow managed to block them all. Damn it! This is the problem going up against an original. When the guard saw that his needles were ineffective, he quickly pulled out his dagger. He was waiting for Quinn to get close. However, when they were around 9 meters apart, Quinn jumped into the air, spinning his body, and then threw out a kick from the side. Blood Crescent kick! He could do nothing but take the attack head-on. What was that attack? It was so powerful, he thought. His hand was feeling numb from the impact of the blow. While Quinn was busy dealing with the guard, Vorden had snuck past and entered the room. Or rather, it was Rayton who was in control now. He was using an invisibility ability he took earlier, so he couldn't be seen. As he entered the room, he saw the students slumped over in their chairs, and Jack hiding behind the desk, while Peter was in front of him, just looking at him. "Go away, or you will regret this," Jack shouted. "Are you threatening me?" Peter asked. Suddenly, Logan had an urgent message. "Guys, the guard chasing Fex has given up and is now on his way back. You have to grab them and get out of there, now!" Rayton then went to the corner of the room near one of the wooden shelves and activated his fire ability, setting the whole thing alive with fire. "Peter, grab Aaron and get out of here! Quinn's orders!" Rayton shouted. Peter did as he was told. Picking up Aaron, he quickly ran out of the room, but before Rayton left, he stared at Jack. "Rayton, what are you doing? I said not to touch him," Vorden said. The room was slowly heating up. Rayton had suggested killing Jack, but Vorden knew this wasn't an option. The simple reason was the balance of the current world right now. If True Dream was to be taken out of the picture, the military power would weaken, and the power balance would be upset, leading to another civil war. But that wasn't what worried Vorden. The problem was, if the Dalki was to see this, if the humans were fighting each other, they would come to invade as soon as possible. Vorden tried his best to explain this to Rayton. "I disagree," Rayton said. "If the human race can't survive without one person, then maybe we shouldn't be alive in the first place." Rayton had set his hand ablaze and threw a punch right towards Jack. All Jack could see right now was a floating arm of fire. As his hand full of flames was about to hit, a slight reflection could be seen in front of Jack. "Hugo?" Jack said. As he turned his head, the large guard, wielding a two-handed axe, had entered the room. "Well, we know someone is getting a raise." "Damn!" With nothing else left to do, Rayton quickly headed for the corridor. Hugo held out his hand, and another reflection appeared just in front of the door. But it was too late. Jack could see the figure moving through the sprinkler's water, and it was clear it was no longer in the room with them. "Damn it, you're too slow. Forget about that raise, let's get out of here." As Rayton ran down the hallway, he could see Quinn, still busy dealing with the green guard Kenny. "I'm leaving," he shouted. And that was the signal for Quinn to disappear as well. Using his shadow cloak skill, suddenly he disappeared right in front of Kenny's eyes. A few seconds later, Jack and Kenny came out of the room. "Where the hell are they? Find them now, and find that girl and the boy. I want them both dead, you hear me?" Jack shouted. As the three of them walked off, Logan's mechanical spider had done the same. He had listened to everything Jack uttered. After a few minutes, everyone returned to Logan's room. Vorden, Peter, Layla, Fex, Quinn, and Aaron were all inside, but Aaron was lying on the bed still under the sleeping spell. "We did it!" Layla shouted. "I can't believe we got them out of there." "I wouldn't celebrate just yet, guys," Logan said. "It seems like we have a problem." Logan then played the recording of the mechanical spider. It stated that True Dream would order the school to bring Aaron and Peter back if they were found. The group remained silent as each one of them thought about what to do. "Guys, I have a solution, but please, I don't want you to hate me after this," Layla said. Layla's hands were visibly shaking and her legs wobbled. "Why would we hate you, Layla?" Quinn said. Layla looked at Aaron on the bed one more time. "I know a place where a group of people will be able to keep her safe from all of this." She paused for a moment before saying the last words. "I'm from Pure." I knew it, Vorden shouted. Of course she was hiding something. They probably wanted to use you for some reasons. That's not true, Layla snapped back. They don't even know about Quinn. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for any of this, Layla said, as tears started to run down her face. Sorry, guys, but can someone explain to me what or who Pure is? Vex said. I'm glad you asked, Logan said, spinning his chair around to procure a file. Then he opened it while uttering, I had prepared for this after I saw Layla dropping off the note in the morning. You knew? Vorden said, surprised. In an instant, a projection was seen playing a myriad of different videos. It was mostly of people wearing a type of mask that covered their whole face, all with a figure of an angel that looked like it had its wings removed. It was the mark of Pure. The video showed multiple explosion attacks on certain buildings, and different factions were being conducted. Let me warn all of you, what you are seeing now is pretty biased. The only information I can get about them is filtered through the military. However, nearly everyone knows the basics. Pure has only one goal, to get rid of all abilities. They believe that the world and the system currently in place are wrong. Even the basic human rights don't exist to those with weaker abilities, Logan explained. I didn't mean to deceive any of you. My situation here is quite complicated, Layla began to reason out. But the main culprit of the system in place is the military. However, the only reason they can enforce the rules is because of True Dream. True Dream only visited this military base. And they sent a kid? Vorden explained. I volunteered, Layla shouted, yet her eyes slightly twitched when she said those words. Look, this isn't about me and Pure. This matter is about Aaron. Vorden then dragged Quinn towards the side and whispered in his ear, You're not considering this, are you? For Aaron and Peter to go over to Pure? After hearing this, Quinn was struggling. He was pretty sure that Layla meant no harm, yet putting his friends in the hand of strangers and sending Peter would be a huge risk. Logan, don't you have everything recorded? Can't we just use that as blackmail against True Dream? Spread it on the internet or something? Impossible, Logan replied without delay. You remember the reports I brought up earlier? The military has a monopoly on what can be seen and what cannot. I think we have no other choice, Quinn said. The best thing for Aaron will be to go over to Pure. Okay, so Aaron goes to Pure, Vorden stated. What about Peter? Quinn's mind was already muddled as he tried to think of solutions, but at that moment he was out of ideas. Quinn, we could always— Don't say it, Vorden. I believe I have a solution to your problem with Peter, the system said. What do you mean, you have an idea for Peter? Quinn asked. The main issue right now is the fact that your faces cannot appear in the school anymore, the system explained. He can learn a transformation ability, but I thought you said we had to find a specific ability for vampires that could be learnt, just like I learnt the Shadow Book, Quinn asked. Perhaps I need to remind you once again. What I said was, there are certain abilities that only vampires can learn, and at the same time, there are abilities that only humans can learn. However, some abilities are in the middle, somewhere in between, and one of them is the transformation ability. The transformation ability wasn't a popular ability with the general public. It gave the user nothing extra that could aid them in combat. One could alter their face and look like another. This meant it was often used for infiltration or spying. Quinn then explained to the others what his plan was with Peter. So what do you think, Logan? Quinn asked. Will you be able to hack into the school system and add his ID? The problem isn't whether I can do it or not, Quinn, Logan replied. The problem is making it all seem natural. It won't work. Once again, the group were deep in thought. I have an idea, Vorden said. When we went to the planet Kaladi and the Dalki attacked us, didn't they say they couldn't find 3 of the student bodies? That's right, Layla replied. They assumed they had died somewhere deep in the desert, and their bodies were eaten. Well, once Peter learns the transformation ability, why don't we get him to look like one of those students? We can have him appear back near the portal and say he had gotten lost in the desert and came back now, Vorden asked. Now that is big-brain thinking, Logan said. He then hopped onto his computer and went over to the marketplace in search of a transformation ability book. It didn't take long for Logan to find one, due to how unpopular the skill was. It seemed to be a level 5 skill, which was perfect. Ability book purchased. It will probably take him a few weeks or so for him to learn it, Logan said. For now, he can stay in my room. Let me try something, Quinn said as he walked over and grabbed the book himself. Level 5 transformation ability book obtained. Would you like to store the book? No. Option to use the ability book on family member Peter. Would you like to use it?" "Maybe we won't have to wait at all," said Quinn as he accepted the system's suggestion. The book floated in the air and flew over to where Peter was. The pages turned and turned until they hit the very last one. Then the book started to disintegrate in front of everyone's eyes. "Peter Chuck has successfully learned the ability Transform." "Peter, do you want to try transforming into me?" Quinn asked. As a tester, Peter did just that, and slowly his face started to reshape and reform into a second Quinn. It was nearly perfect. The others watching were amazed by this. In the room on Logan's computer, 3 different profiles were displayed. It was displaying information about the 3 missing students from the Dalkey attack. Out of the 3, there were 2 that matched Peter the closest. Peter looked at the screen and carefully started to morph his face. The student had medium-length brown hair, and one of the finer details about him was he would often wear a bandana that cut off one side of his hair while the other remained up. Finally, Peter would no longer go by his name in the school and would now be known as P.O. Blank. While this all was happening, the groans from the back were heard as Erin lifted her body off the bed and touched her head. When she looked up, she could see the faces of everyone staring at her and a person she had never seen before. "Who the heck is the new guy?" Erin groaned. No one said a word, and after a few moments, she started to remember everything that had happened to her. Her last words with Jack and what he had planned to do with them. "No, no, no!" she started to scream. "Calm her down before someone outside hears us," Vorden said. Layla quickly rushed over to her side, but Erin couldn't help but scream in anger and sadness. "Do you want us to be caught?" Logan said as he threw out a circular device towards Erin. The device opened up mid-air just before reaching her mouth and wrapped around it like a tight-fit mask. The screams had stopped, but the tears continued to run down her face. While Erin's mouth was covered, it was a lot easier for Layla to explain. Logan then walked up to Erin and had a few words to say himself. "Now if you scream, it goes back on. The situation is not favorable for any of us, and please trust me. We went through all the options. I even looked into your background and thought about seeing if we could send you back to your family, but that's not possible. Staying with Pure is the only option we have." Logan took off Erin's wristwatch and made a few adjustments to it before placing it back. "We are a bit wary of Pure, so if you need any emergency help, you can contact me through that." Erin nodded calmly. Rather than angry or sad, she seemed to be going through a different stage right now. She was in shock. As soon as the mask was taken off, she started to look at Layla. "Will you be coming with me?" Erin asked with pain in her voice. Layla looked in her eyes and held both of her hands before shaking her head. She knew the next words would hit her hard. "No, I can't. I still have my mission here," Layla replied. "What about Peter? Will he be coming along with me as well?" The student who Erin didn't recognize stood next to Quinn, stepped forward, and his face started to morph back into his old self. "But how? Did he have an Earth ability?" Erin asked. "How did he learn that?" The sound of a little excitement and hope could be felt in her voice. "That's because Peter is no longer human," Quinn explained. Hearing these words from Quinn suddenly gave Erin an idea. She had lost her ability, but not all hope was gone. She stood up from the bed and said, "Quinn, I want you to make me a vampire. I want you to turn me like how you turned Peter. Erin, even if I wanted to, I can't. It wouldn't change the situation we're in," Quinn explained. "What do you mean?" she asked, slightly annoyed, taking a step forward. "First, I think you're forgetting the main issue here. It isn't that your ability was stolen from you, but it's the fact that the school and Jack are after you. Either way, we need to hide you somewhere, and going to Pure is the best option." "Perhaps I should take over the explaining," Logan said as he moved forward. "The reason Peter got the transformation ability in the first place was so he could hide in plain sight. We are currently using one of the missing male students from the planet Caldi. If you did change your mind and gave in, ending up with the transformation ability, it would still be impossible to hide you, Erin. There have been no missing female students since the start of the term." Hearing their explanation wasn't calming Erin down at all. Instead, it was making her feel drained and defeated. "What's the point of me being protected by Pure? Am I meant to just be some type of princess that can't fight for herself?" she complained. "Why don't we make a deal?" Quinn said. "Stay with Pure for now. Once this whole thing blows over or we finish school, come back to me. If you still wish for me to turn you into a vampire, then I will. Please understand, Erin, none of us can do anything when we are dead." She looked into his eyes for a while, before eventually giving his answer, and finally shook Quinn's hand. "Sometimes you make some sense," she said. Finally, the matter had been settled and a plan set. "What do we need to do to send Aaron to Pura then?" Vorden asked. "It's not exactly like we can just walk out the front door of this place." "Logan, do you have an answer?" Quinn asked. "Unfortunately not," Logan replied. "We have Pure members stationed on nearly every planet, except for a few red planets," Layla said. "We won't need to go outside, but just get Aaron to the portal room." "That's no good," Logan said. "It seems like after the incident last time with a couple of students being pushed into one of the portals. They have been stricter about the security there." "How about Fex's mind control?" Aaron said. "Couldn't he tell them to go away or remove their memories?" "If they are adults, it would be much harder than before," Fex replied. "Besides, right now I'm guessing there will be a lot of people covering that area. If I wanted to get out of this place, the portal room would be the first place I would think of. So there's no way we can pull off something as similar as we did against True Dream, not unless we had someone on the inside." The last words Fex had spoken gave Quinn an idea. It was a risky one, but he had a gut feeling that he would be able to help. "Then we have no choice," Quinn said. "We need to ask Leo for help." The words that came out of Quinn's mouth surprised them all. This also included Vorden, who felt like he was the closest to him. "Why would you suggest that?" Vorden said. "Leo is a sergeant, and although he isn't under Duke, he is under Nathan, who is ultimately under Paul, the head general. It's clear that Leo is working for them, or at least he takes direct orders from them," Quinn said. "First of all, I'm pretty sure he knows I'm a vampire. He knew I was different from the beginning, and has safeguarded my secret until this day. Leo himself didn't align with the military. He is on the side of humanity," Aaron added. "I agree he's different from the other teachers. Remember how he saved us from the Dalki attack that one time?" Once again, Logan projected the information about Leo onto the screen. Logan said, "It says Leo readily refused to join the military and only wanted peace after the war. However, he did agree to fight once again if the Dalki were to invade." A bright light emerged from the projector, which used to display the hologram so far. It now displayed a solid wall of green. "Which one of you is the best at acting here?" Logan inquired. The others didn't know who to look at, but eventually they all directed their gaze at Vorden. Vorden immediately bent down as little Logan placed the strange helmet on top of his head. "This here is a facial recognition device. It can track the smallest of details and all the little movements of the muscles in your face. What I plan to do is make a video. If we put both Peter and Aaron up against the green screen, and we have our actor Vorden here, I will be able to create a realistic video. The plan is to pretend the video has been sent from Pure, informing the school that the kids they are looking for have already left the planet and are safe in Pure's hands. Once they know Pure safely has the two of you, hopefully they will stop searching around as desperately as they are doing now." A speech was made for Vorden to act out, while Layla was in charge of telling Vorden what to say. The speech even ended with a phrase they had never heard before, "May we purify your souls." She explained that it was a type of signature, Pure used when they send things like this to their enemy. It also made the others realize how Layla was living a double life, and perhaps the Layla they knew wasn't real at all. She had to inform Pure of the plan as well. She was quite nervous about this, as she had broken the rules of Pure and acted on her own. Walking down the hallway, both Quinn and Vorden were making their way to the weapons class. Even on off days like today, Leo would often rest there, or practice his swordsmanship. The two of them now stood just outside the weapons hall, and Vorden hesitated before stepping in. "The two of you were standing outside for a while. I was wondering when you were going to come in," Leo said. Quinn started to explain what had happened, and how they had come to learn what True Dream's reason for coming to the academy was, as well as how Pure was the one who had informed them, and how their friends had been chosen for the process. All they wanted to do was protect Aaron and Peter. Quinn, however, did leave out the detail of them trying to save Peter for a different reason related to himself, and just explained that he didn't want his friends to lose their ability. He also mentioned how they needed to send Aaron out of here right now. "There isn't much I can do with the situation with Jack. Jack holds a special relationship with our head general, Paul. The only thing I can do is wait to meet with the head general of Military Base 1. Not everyone in the military agrees with Jack's doing, and this will hopefully be a step in the right direction," Leo said. Quinn said, "Right now all we need to do is save our friend. Is there any way you can get us inside the teleport room to send her off somewhere?" Leo started to think, which wasn't a good sign. It seemed like he asked a simple yes or no answer, but that didn't seem to be the case.
As you know, the portal room has been heavily guarded ever since what happened between you two. Most likely it will be guarded even more. Still, there is a way. Follow me."
While entering her room, Layla was more nervous than ever. The black orb resting under her bed was now in her hand, and once again she took a deep breath, readying herself before tapping the top of the sphere. "Agent 45 connected with Agent 83. Today isn't a report day. Does there seem to be a problem?" the voice from the sphere asked. "I would like to make a special report. Would you please connect me to Agent number 5? Layla asked. "The single agents are too busy. You can report it to me and I will pass on the message to them." "I'll ask you again," Layla said firmly. "Please let me speak to Agent 5. This is not a request as an agent, but say that it's from her daughter." There seemed to be a slight pause between the two for a moment, before the agent eventually replied. "I will see what she says." Layla waited while the other agent contacted her mother. "This is Agent 5. I hear you have some important news for me, Agent 83, the voice said. Layla started to explain the details of what happened, how she acted on her own without informing Pure to protect her friends, going against Jack, and what the situation currently was. So far, she had only said she told Aaron, someone who she wanted to bring over to Pure, about her real position. "Has your position been compromised by anyone else in the school, or personnel?" her mother asked. "No, I've only informed Aaron. Right now they think she escaped on her own. They're looking for her, and she has no ability, as well as nowhere to go. If you can, please help her." "Don't worry," she replied. "We will do our best. Anyone who has been affected by True Dream will be accepted. We shall treat her well. However, you have gone against our code. Although you were not caught, you took action without asking for permission, and you even went as far as to use our name. Your punishment will be decided when you come back to the base. For now, you shall be demoted from position 83 to position 100. Update me when you have the location Aaron will be sent to. We will have someone on standby waiting. Oh, and one last thing. Layla, I am waiting for you. Soar through the ranks. Don't be disheartened and try to get into the upper level so we can meet more frequently. May Pure be with you." "May Pure be with you." The two boys were closely following Leo as he walked around the school. "Sergeant Leo," Faye said, "there has been an update about the situation of the two students who ran away from their punishment. It appears that somehow Pure has already gotten their hands on both of them," Faye said. As Faye finished her words, she spotted the two boys standing not too far away from Leo. They were the first-year students who she had been seeing more than she would have liked to. Wherever these two went, it seemed like trouble was simply lurking in their shadows. On the other hand, Leo stopped in his tracks, prompting the students to do the same. They had reached an area in the school that they had never been to before. It was located around the back of the teleport area, and to access it, a special code should be entered on a panel that served as the lock. "This area is dedicated to the soldiers' storage room. When we moved here, we were allowed to bring our personal belongings," Leo explained. They walked for a few seconds, eventually stopping right before the door that had the number 12 painted on it. There is a security device that made sure that the only one who had access to this room was him, unlike the other codes utilized on the previous doors. Placing his hand on top of the access panel, it soon allowed Leo inside. Quinn continued his inspection of the weapons. He noticed that most of them were high class and were classified as beast equipment. It turned out that Quinn wasn't the only one who noticed the equipment around them was mostly high gears, as Vorden did too. "Hey, if you're not going to use these things, do you mind if I keep them?" Just then, Leo came out from the back, holding a fairly large circular device. It was almost the same size as his upper body. He placed it in front of the two students, making a loud sound as it hit the floor. "I'm afraid that all of these weapons are cursed," Leo said. "Their users died with too much resentment, and those emotions stayed in their weapons," Leo explained. "Having no sight has allowed me to see more things than I have ever seen before. If only you could see the things I could see, perhaps you would begin to understand a little." "Oh," Vorden replied. "If you're talking about your ability, is there a way you can show me? I can copy and use other people's abilities. All I need to do is touch their hand." Quinn was a little afraid about how Leo would react. "If you wish to, then go ahead," Leo said as he held out his hand. At the same time, a strange smile appeared on his face. With that,
The pressure Vorden felt before was back.
When Vorden explained to Leo his abilities, Leo was running his lie detection ability to see if he was speaking the truth or not. Vorden looked at Leo's hand once again, and this time with slight hesitation. He eventually took the plunge and shook Leo's hand. Vorden could feel an insurgence of new energy inside his body. The cells in his body were finally changing. It was the strongest force he had ever felt enter his body before. Finally, the two of them let go. "Well?" Leo asked. "Do you see what I see?" Vorden activated the ability, and his whole vision went black. He could no longer see using his regular eyesight. Instead, the walls and floor appeared like wireframes that were constantly moving. When he looked at his hand, he could see the flow of yellow energy appearing off his own body. He turned his head and looked at Quinn, who was giving off a different color, a dark purple hue which burned brightly. Vorden now understood why Leo was able to tell that Quinn was different. It was the colors of energy. Finally, though, when he looked at Leo, the largest shock came to him. Leo's flame was yellow, just like Vorden's. However, there was a big difference between the two. The flow of energy burning was much more intense, and it seemed to be at least 4 times bigger than his own. But how? Vorden thought. Then Vorden started to notice something else. The sword around his waist was also burning a bright red color, and the energy coming off from it was nearly just as strong as Leo himself. "Is this normal for beast weapons?" Vorden asked. "It seems like you really can see what I can see. A regular beast weapon does not shine. As I said before, these are different," Leo explained. "And what about you?" Vorden asked. "Why are you—" Just before Vorden could ask his question, Leo immediately suppressed the yellow aura around his body and brought it down to the same level as Vorden. Seeing this action, Vorden knew Leo was telling him not to ask about it. Leo then tapped the large metallic circular object. "This here is a portable teleportation device. It's an old one, but it still works. As you know, these are a one-time use thing. It will allow you to go to a destination, but not come back," Leo explained. "The location of this device is set to a planet called Lintarnia. It's a green portal planet that I once came from, so it should be safe." "There is one problem, though," said Leo. "As you can see, it's very big and heavy. There is no way to move this without being suspicious or being seen by anyone else." "We could bring Aaron over to the portal," Vorden suggested. As Vorden made his suggestion, an idea suddenly popped into Quinn's head. He touched the shadow just underneath the large metallic object. "Dimensional space." The shadow underneath the object grew, and when it encased the whole thing, it eventually dropped down, as if the object was sucked into a black hole. "That solves the problem," Quinn said. "I wish you two good luck," Leo said. As the two boys ran off, Leo looked at the back of the two of them. "The future ahead will be dark for you two, but it seems you will be strong enough to overcome it." The circular portal was set up in Logan's room, while Layla sent a message with details about which planet Aaron would be in for an agent of Pure to pick her up. Once Layla received a confirmation back, it was finally time for them to say their goodbyes. Logan tapped a few buttons on the side of the circular machine, and 2 claw-like objects opened up from the side. A few moments later, a green-colored round fuzz of energy was produced. The portal was activated. Before stepping into it, she looked back at everyone in the room. "I know you losers will still do well without me, become the best, and keep my top place warm for me when I return," she said with a smile. Looking at Aaron's smile, their hearts started to melt a little. "Remember, if there is any problem and you need to contact us, use the watch," Logan shouted. With those last words said, Aaron stepped into the portal, experiencing a whole new world. On the planet Biolotmare, a medium-sized shelter stood along a clear blue river. The shelter wasn't owned by the military or the Big Four, but instead was owned by a secret benefactor who would hire out travelers, or traveler factions, to guard the place. Standing by one of the portal entrances was a young man who was tapping his foot on the ground. A strange sound was heard by his side. When he turned his head, he could see the space next to him became distorted. Warping in and out, suddenly, a bright white circular portal appeared. A snow-white-skinned female with blonde hair dropped out of it. The man walked up to the woman and looked her up and down before saying anything. An angel flies high in the sky, the young man said. And has its wings torn down and falls to the ground, Aaron replied. Before leaving, Layla had informed her this was a code, so agents could tell who was who between each other. Follow me. The young man led her out of the shelter. This should be far enough, the young man said, standing near the edge of the cliff top. The man started to walk around as if he was looking for something on the floor, until eventually a ping sound was heard. Here it is. The man started to dig down at the spot with his bare hands. Hey, pretty lady, are you just going to stand there, or are you going to help me? The man asked. Just as she moved forward, a loud screeching sound could be heard in the air. Watch out, she shouted. It's a beast. The young man turned and slowly drew out his large sword. Suddenly the beast stopped its descent and spread its wings wide open, hovering by the cliff top in front of the young man. It marched forward, and the young man lifted the sword just at the right time, pushed it down like a pin right on top of its head. Its wings had stopped in an instant, and the beast was dead. Can you at least get the crystal? The man asked. While Aaron went to carve out the beast's crystal, the man continued to dig in the location. Finally, the man had stopped digging and pulled out a large, circular metallic device. After pressing a few buttons on the side, the portal opened up. Well, are you ready to meet your new home? He asked. Take off the watch. If you're worried about the school tracking me, they won't be able to. Your member disabled it, Aaron tried to explain. The man then forcefully grabbed her wrist and snapped the watch off, before throwing it onto the ground. You're about to head into the Pure's base. We can't and won't take any chances. After that, he pulled Aaron into the portal, and the two of them disappeared out of sight. At Military Base 2, things were starting to calm down. There was only one problem left to solve right now, and that was Peter. The group had decided they would continue to hide Peter inside Logan's room. While he stayed in Logan's room, it would also give him time to practice the details of the student he was pretending to be. Logan opened up the files which displayed information about the student named Pio Blank on the screen. While the file was open, Logan would ask a series of questions, to which Peter would answer. They continued this until Peter could remember every detail about Pio Blank by heart. Do you mind doing me another favor? Logan asked with a small smile on his face. Peter hopped into the VR machine. Logan would communicate with him while he was connected. Right now, Logan wanted to see Peter's capabilities and strengths. Peter, behind you a pair of weapons will appear. Use them however you wish against the NPC enemies. Suddenly, a pair of short blades appeared on the ground behind him, and at the same time, 8 different men all in a solid black color appeared. They didn't look like humans, but like blobs of ink instead. Using the 2 weapons and Peter's speed, he was able to deal with most of the enemies with ease, and Logan was impressed. Right now, both his strength and speed were nearly 4 times the level of an average human. Finally, the simulation had ended, and Peter exited the pod. After gathering all of Peter's stats, Logan concluded that Peter would make a great spy or assassin. While Logan was deep in thought, he heard a knock on the door, and to his utter surprise, it was Quinn and Fex. What are you two doing back here so soon? Logan asked. Actually, Quinn replied, I was hoping we could use your VR capsule. I wanted you to add Fex's ability to the game for us. I suppose I still have some energy left in me, Logan said as he quickly hopped onto his computer. Go on then, Quinn, you've done this before. Show him what to do. Just like Quinn had done before, Fex was placed into the fairly large glass tube. He was then told to use his ability in different ways, while the tube and computer would record how his ability worked. And we are done, Logan said as he opened his eyes and let go of the computer. How will we play? Quinn asked. There's only one VR machine. I thought of that beforehand, Logan said as he threw 2 very small, square-looking nanosticks in the air. Both Quinn and Fex caught them with ease by swiping their hands in the air. Usually if you try putting anything into the VR capsules, it will just reject them for security reasons, but those have been blessed by me, Logan explained. Just head to the back and pop them in. After that, when you log into the VR capsule, it will give you the option of which server to connect to. I've put both the Shadow and String ability into the private server for you to use. Now get out of here and go play your little game. As soon as the 2 boys left the room, Logan almost collapsed on his bed. Peter looked at Logan in the room before looking at the VR capsule again. "Do you mind if I use the VR capsule?" Peter asked. But Logan was already asleep. "Whatever, it's just a game," Peter said as he climbed into the machine. "Logging in online. Please create your user ID." Quinn and Fex were now in the game's white lobby room. They had done as Logan instructed. Right now, they were in his private server. "Okay, so the idea is, I will control your body using the strings. Now what you need to do is focus on the feeling of each movement. Every sequence of moves starts somewhere and ends somewhere. You need to put these things together like building blocks," Fex explained. "So are you ready?" Quinn was ready this time. Within the game, there was no chance for him to be hurt. He stood with his back facing towards Fex and had his arms and legs spread out to make it easier for him. Just like he did with Aaron, Fex walked up to Quinn and inserted 12 different pieces of string into 12 different parts of his body. Fex did a few simple tests first, moving his body around. "Calm down, will you?" Fex complained. "For this to work, you need to be in a sleep-like state. That way I can use your body how I like. You just need to pay attention with your mind." Quinn closed his eyes and tried relaxing his body. It took a while for him to allow his whole body to go limp, as he was afraid he would fall over if he did, but suddenly when he did, he felt a jolt in his legs. He didn't fall over, but instead, Fex had taken control of his legs. After getting past the weird feeling, the rest was now easy for Fex. Quinn concentrated hard as Fex demonstrated the moves using his body. As his arms flew out from different angles, they were fast and stiff. At the same time, his body was always in a position where he could see an oncoming attack, while being able to block using his shoulder. Quinn tried to combine the feelings of the punches, together with his muscle memory from being controlled by Fex, and it seemed to be working out well for him. Fex watched Quinn carefully as each move was performed nearly perfectly to how they were shown. "Looks like we have a fast learner," Fex said. As Quinn didn't want to let go of this feeling, he continued to practice the punches Fex had taught him. He was slowly perfecting them. Then, all of a sudden, he heard a ding from the system.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.